learning.
Really the kind of the goal for today is to really kind of assist you guys because I know you guys are obviously very early in your career, still in school and everything like that. I'm sure you guys are all various years and everything. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking to get into, an internship or co-op position or a new grad position, hopefully some of these tips and tricks will kind of help you along the way. Bruno, like he said, he is a newer manager, so he has, started obviously to do more interviews and stuff. Myself, I've just quick little background on me. I've been in recruitment for about 10 years. Been with Ciena for a year and a half right now. So, but I've interviewed honestly thousands of people. Like I can't even count how many people I've interviewed in my career. So I picked up a lot of insight on, things that you should do, best practices to help you stand out. Just ways that you can kind of, really ace your interview. So coming from someone who does this every day, this is really good advice to really help you guys along in your career, and yeah, just stand out from everyone else. So I'm going to let Bruno kick it off and just give you a little intro on the company. If people are unaware of what we do, we can give you a little bit of insight on that, and then we're going to dive into the interview stuff after that. Okay?
Yeah, I don't want to take more than 10 minutes.
Oh yeah,
And
take
I'd
your time. Yeah,
also kind of prefer if it was a two-way conversation. So
yeah,
if you guys want to jump in with questions and comments
yeah.
to steer the conversation, that'd be great. I'm also reusing a deck that I typically use with like high school students or non-technical people. So it may not like it might be beneath your level. So we'll go very quick and hopefully you have great questions and we can jump in. What is CN all about? It really, as simplistic as it sounds, it still comes down to moving bits of data around, right? And in the industry, this hasn't changed. Like I said, I've been around a really, really long time. In the 80s and 90s, we were talking about moving data, as much data as possible over the longest distances possible. It's still the name of the game. Whoever does that best wins. We'll get into a little bit more what that means for Ciena. We use the infographic. There's about I don't know, a couple dozen of these you can Google every day. The numbers are all different, but the point is just about data. And it seems at any point in time, people say, wow, it's exploding, demand's exploding. I remember when Netflix came out, it's like, it's all about video streaming. Oh, the network won't hold up. Now we're laughing at that, right? We've got newer demands like AI, and I'm sure that's a big topic. They have an incredibly large demand for moving data around. So next slide. So just quick sort of, again, it's geared for maybe stuff that for people who might not have your background. Your home network, right? You probably have a wireless part and a wired part. You might have some Ethernet cables. A lot of times now, most home networks don't even have Ethernet cables. You might have a short Ethernet cable between your modem and your Wi-Fi router, and that's it. But if you're serious about gaming, you care about latency and high throughput, you might want a hardwired like gaming laptop, right? So two forms of media, right, for moving bits of data around. And we can see these are sort of rough numbers, speeds, right? So wired tends to be faster than wireless. And where do we come in? Well, we don't sell products to individuals. We sell products to other corporations, right? Like Bell, Rogers, TELUS, all those guys. And really, they're moving data once it leaves your house, and we start aggregating data flows and packets together, right? And you can imagine the demands that you have in your house when you combine them with all the houses in your neighborhood. You go from talking about, if you're lucky, you've got a gigabit connection at home. That's, right today, next week it'll be twice or whatever. That's a big pipe. But once you aggregate all that data into your neighborhood or into your metro, the demands grow and grow and grow. And we're in the business of terabits, right? So it's a lot, the analogy of pipes works for sure. And I had that quick analogy. Oh, yeah, my slides aren't ordered very well. So some of the needs are networks like what we traditionally call service providers, like Bell. So Bell sells you your ISP services or your cell phone services, and that data aggregates at cell phone towers and all that kind of stuff. There's a new market that Ciena plays in, and that's data center interconnect. So you've heard of obviously these big data centers, and that was true before AI. Now it's a million times more true. And in fact, for better or for worse, some of these guys that are building these data centers, their limitations on compute are with the inability to route enough power to a geographical location. If you let that sink in, it's mind-boggling. And for that reason, they distribute the computation across different geographical sites because they just can't get enough megawatts. I won't even cite the numbers to one point in a geography. So they build multiple. As soon as you do that, you need to interconnect these guys. So this is another place where Ciena plays, right? Data center interconnect. So I'm going really fast because I want to save the time for the interviewing.
Do your thing.
So service providers aggregate home data, like cell phone data, move things around. But we at Ciena are very fortunate that some of our big customers are in this business, and the data they move between their data centers is picture the biggest pipe imaginable. And so we have a lot of business with these guys. And if you care, our stock is doing really well because we're tracking the AI. And guys might go, bubble. Yeah. It might be a bubble. I don't know, but it's kind of fun while it lasts.
Yeah.
Just quickly, like super hyper, you can there's a few things coming out. Yeah. The punchline is we're really about fiber optics. Why are we about fiber optics? Is when you transmit data, obviously, regardless of the medium, the medium will introduce noise that degrades your signal, and that's bit errors. I mean, you guys live and breathe this stuff in your classes. But if you look at the different mediums, wireless, is probably one of the poorest actually mediums, even though Wi-Fi and your cell, all of the data we consume, for the most part, comes over wireless. But copper is still better than going over the air. But copper's not convenient. But fiber kicks the butt of those guys. It is the best medium for transferring data over large amounts of data over long distances. And so all of our equipment really deals with fiber optic cables because it's the best medium for carrying terabits and petabits of data over long distances. Okay. And so it begs the question, what differentiates us over our customers, right? A lot of people build routers. Cisco builds routers. Juniper, Arista, all those guys. We also build routers in some of our products, but where we're very, very good, and this is again a super oversimplification. You guys might be laughing a little bit, but for a high school student, I say, picture ones and zeros coming into a laser, and we're blinking the laser. The reality is we're modulating different polarities, and there's a lot of magic that goes into that. And that light is transmitted over a piece of glass. And at the other end, we've got a receiver that can decode that modulation. There's fancy forward error correction in here, and we can recover that signal. And in the industry, whoever moves the most data, so higher bit rate, over the longest distances wins. And distance is important because as you carry data over longer distances, you get more noise, you get more interference and all that stuff, and it's harder. It's just harder. So that's really what makes Ciena great. We have literally some scientists, Kim Roberts and his team, they publish in academia and they go, they speak at conferences. They're all IEEE fellows. These are really, really intelligent people who come up with the technology behind this. And once you have that, we can build a whole bunch of products around that. It's kind of like the Ferrari engine, and everything else is sort of built around that engine. So not to say that the other parts aren't important, but this is the differentiator for the most part, right? Quickly, so what does it look like, these modems? If you've ever toured one of these data centers or Ciena, it's a lot of gray boxes with very loud fans and little LEDs, right? They all kind of look the same. But inside some of these circuit packs is where this modem technology lives. And it needs a lot of software. We're getting the software very soon to manage those coherent devices. That's where we come in. And now there's a new trend where the industry's come up with standards for basically defining what these plug form factors look like and what the interfaces at the back should look like. And so we can put our magic secret sauce in these guys, and that's a whole new business that we're in as well. Yeah, so this is, if you Google Ciena, you might land on some of this marketing, and this is, I think there's one more. When you hear these things, we're really talking about those modems again, and their ability. Our latest generation can do 1.6 terabit per second, and we're working on the next one. And the industry's always, we'd like to think we're at the forefront. Oh, by the way, in those modems, there's dedicated ASICs, and they're a 3 nanometer process, which is about the best I think that the world can do right now. So this is really bleeding edge technology. Yep. Next, we'll just blaze through the other ones. Yeah. So these are some of what our products look like. Some of them incorporate a router on top of that transport layer. So sometimes those coherent modems, we call them transport. So there's full routers similar to what you would think of in terms of a Cisco router or Arista router. So, and there's software to manage all these things. A whole part of our organization is called Navigator. That's a recent rebrand. And they're in the business of writing software that manages these network elements that are in the field. So my team and a lot of the people I work with, we're all about writing embedded software, rewrite C code, low level stuff, talking to, register maps and FPGAs and all that kind of stuff. That's the software that lives in these boxes, but they need to be managed. And so there's a whole bunch of teams in Ciena that write, fancy GUIs that let you get visualize your network and see what's going on if there's faults or whatever else. It's all software. That software is maybe Java, Python. I don't actually really know. We're like pretty hardcore C++ shop. So yeah, this is a little mission control. So this is what a NOC looks like at AT&T, and that's what this software, management software, might look like. And these network elements are geographically, they could span a whole nation, but you get a full view of what's going on from that network operations center. Yeah, well, I think we should just blaze through this stuff. Yeah, different product for portfolios and families. In the end, in one form or another, they've got those modems in there, and when those other ports are about aggregating different types of traffic onto those modems or those transport ports. Some of them are pole mounted. That's a fairly new one. Really big beast. It looks like a refrigerator. Hasn't yet really exploded in the market. We thought we had something with Google, and then the start of the year they call us up, said thanks, but no thanks. Anyway, swing and a miss. But that's not to say we're not successful with other products. If you keep going, yeah, this guy was born around year 2000, and we're basically trying to sunset. We're trying to migrate customers away from it, but it's been very successful. So it's not easy to tell your customer, hey, look at this shiny thing. We're like, well, we like the old rusty thing. Anyway. And wave server. We'll just do the next one. Yeah. So this guy, again, we could spend days talking about all this stuff, but this is one of our products that's currently exploding in terms of popularity, and we're having trouble. We've sold out for the year, basically. Like, people are like, if you call us and you want one now, we'll be like, well, maybe start of next year. We can't build them fast enough. So we're in a pretty nice place. Yeah. I think I didn't want to take up more time.
That's perfect.
That's like super fast. I'd love to hear you guys if you have questions or thoughts or anything like that. Maybe some of you already knew Ciena a little bit. Maybe it's just not new or anything like that. Yes, thank you.
Product mentioned that you try to sell it to Google. I didn't ask.
Yeah. So Google puts out what are called RFPs. They're like, we would like a product that does something like this. And then vendors like us and Nokia's and others, we start we it's a long process. We engage with them, we figure out the requirements, and then we build these prototypes. And we thought this would fit the bill. And then they just decided that they weren't going with us for this job. We don't know yet. I think they as far as I know, by the way, this is probably all NDA stuff. So anyway, as far as I know, at one point they had 5 vendors bidding for it.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they're cutting it down, but this happens, right? Where we lost there, we won big time somewhere else. Yeah. Google's still our second biggest customer. Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's insane.
And it's hard to do justice, right? Because an
Mhm.
FPGA guy will come here and he'll talk to you about FPGAs like all day and all night. And yes, we have
Yeah.
FPGA teams to do so. And then an ASIC guy might come here, a navigator person. I try to not oversell the fact, okay, I'm a software guy, right? Embedded software for this gear, but it's a universe, right? There's so many parts to it.
So everyone knows, what is the core differentiating factor between Ciena, Nokia, and
Oh,
Great question. Great question.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You have an answer
No,
for it?
no,
Okay.
it's all you.
My answer is the following.
Yeah,
Nokia,
I'll let you.
you go to Nokia and buy the stuff that's on a cell phone tower.
Thank
You can go to
Thanks, man.
Nokia. They have business units like
I'll let you.
I can't even pretend to understand all the
There you
different
go. Thank
sort
you.
of business units. We are an optical transport and optical packet routing solution. Like it's like we only compete with them on a sliver of what they do. So that's one big difference. We have other competitors that are experts at just the transponder bit. They don't do routing, they don't do aggregation or all those other things. I think it's about scale and specialization. So they can do probably their optical transport business is like, oh yeah, and there's this, whereas really for them it's all 5G and the cell phone, mobile data world is probably front and center what they do. But I don't know for a fact. Sorry, she was ahead.
Actually, I can add on to that
Yes,
quickly,
yeah.
very quickly. I can answer that for culturally.
Oh,
I don't know if anyone here has worked at Nokia. I'm not going to talk bad about them at all or anything like that, but just from what I've heard, we've had some interns that have worked at both companies. Just different culture-wise, for sure. I mean, it's I've known some recruiters at Nokia. They're all really great as well. I think what separates Ciena is that like it's a very supportive environment. Like it's a very, we have a great mentorship program. We have a great training program. You're also with a lot of other new grads and interns as well. So like you go in our cafeteria on like a typical day and there's like big groups of like, people having lunch together and like we have some games and stuff you can play and stuff. So I know that like from what I've heard is that like culturally we're a little bit more modern. We're a little bit more like social in that aspect. Nokia, I think sometimes are a little bit more old school from what I've heard. I'm not gonna yeah.
the other thing I've heard,
Yeah.
just so in Ottawa, Ciena has R&D offices,
Yeah.
sort of 3 big ones, right?
Yeah.
One in Alpharetta, one in Ciena, India, in Delhi, or a suburb of Delhi, and one in Ottawa. Ottawa is the biggest R&D office.
Yeah.
The buck stops as far as R&D goes. It stops here. Like the key technology leaders, they're in Ottawa, right? I've heard, and maybe this is true or not, that Nokia and it's probably worse than Ericsson. Any decision you try to make has to go back to Scandinavia,
Yeah.
right? Because somebody out there is the one that has the final say,
That's
right?
very true.
And I would find that demoralizing, especially as a manager, where you're somewhat handcuffed in your ability to own your destiny. We here own our destiny entirely. From an R&D standpoint, mind you, we're an American company and our headquarters in the US. So
yeah,
something to think about.
Yeah.
Do you actually build the hardware like within your company or do you send it out?
Fantastic. Wonderful question. Yep. That's the latter. We manufacture almost exclusively. There's little parts of those modems I was talking about. They're so specialized that we take in on ourselves, but everything else is built by partners. And so we're sort of at the mercy of them, right? But at the same time, whether it was in-house or our demand for that product has gone, hey, we're doing great to this. even if we were doing it in-house, scaling up manufacturing, I mean, it's a whole science onto itself. I'm not sure we wouldn't have the same problem. But yes, we manufacture through partners. Yeah.
For the product that's like the product that you were about to sell to Google, where how do you decide that it's not no more in research and development and you have to move it to production? Because like research and development is something, but now for the production you have to optimize the cost and stuff like that in order to sell it to them.
So you've touched on, I think I've heard two different topics, right? This last thing that we were trying with them, it is a product that in some flavor has gone GA. It is a commercially available product that we're trying to sell in different places. We were tailoring something for Google. We thought we could use the same solution and give it to them. Google, you'll have to cut me off because I don't want this to be, when you're ready, you just say, well, thank you.
Good questions. Yeah.
So I lost my train of thought. So the customers like Bell or AT&T in the States are one of our biggest customers, or used to be one of our biggest customers. These are old school people, all right? They send out their requirements and in detail, we implement, we give them something, and then they run for a certification cycle that can last 16, 18 months. And we only see revenue at the end of that. Google, Meta, Amazon, they're the hip, cool new people like you guys. And they're like, listen, man, give us drops. We'll start integrating. We'll take your drops. And so working with those guys is actually so much fun. This is like, hey, I put this together. What do you think? And when you get direct feedback from Google or Amazon or someone that says, I like it, but can you change this? And you're like, I know how to do that. And you go and you crank that out. You give them another drop. 100 times more fun than working with a service provider where it's all waterfall. So it goes right back to some of the courses you might take in waterfall versus agile development. We try to be agile. We're not a pure agile shop, but we try to work in sprints and to deliver software drops, right? So then you touched on something else at the end there, which was a little bit different.
Typing to production.
Right. So we give them software drops along the way, but eventually we do give them a GA load when they're kind of happy with it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Awesome. Great questions. Yeah. Thank you, Bruno. Great presentation.
Yeah.
Round of applause. Thank you. Really, really good. You know what? Honestly, those presentations are even great for me because sometimes Ciena is so massive. It's actually good for me to get a refresher on like our technology and stuff like that because it's just it's so cutting edge. It's new things coming out all the time. So like when I'm speaking to you guys, like you guys will come to me with technical questions. I'm not super technical, so I mean it's good things for me to know as well. So that's amazing. So we're gonna dive right into the interview tips and tricks portion here. So yeah, you can kick it off there, Braj. Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to put full screen?
Leave that little bit right there. That's good.
Zoom share.
Oh.
Beauty. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, guys. So just want to kick off with just kind of explaining a little bit about like our process and just kind of like what a typical like interview cycle will look like at Ciena. This is kind of mirrors like a lot of other companies too. But I want to kick it off with just a quick question to everyone. So who here has gone through like a professional interview process with like a big company? Only a few of you, really? Yeah. And do you guys like does everyone in the room have co-op experience or anything like that, or show of hands? Okay, only a few of you. Okay, really? Okay, so this is actually great advice for you guys kind of getting into the workforce and actually starting interviews. But for the people who have done interviews, I think there's only like a couple of you, eh? Maybe just share a quick thought. Before you went into the interview, how were you feeling? Who wants to, yourself, yeah? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to remember like all of like the technical details of something that they may ask you, even do your homework beforehand with the company that you may be interviewing with.
For sure.
You also like have to like, appear like a normal person and
That's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
That's a good point. Yeah. We'll do what? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. It is. Yeah, absolutely. And one more, yeah. Yeah.
actually like, you don't want to not. I guess you are there to brag.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. Great points. Yeah, and for you guys getting into the workforce and stuff, this will happen. Even me, like I've obviously I interviewed for this job and I was super nervous, even though I kind of had, know what it looks like to be on the other side of the table. So for sure, great points. And we're gonna get into all that, like, how to, be a little bit more confident going to interviews. But just wanted to quickly walk through like our process. So obviously with any job, you do submit an online application. So what I was saying before is that like the early in career team, like we do a lot of events, like we do a lot of these workshops with students, and we partner with a lot of different organizations, like Carleton, Ottawa U, Queens, McGill, all those places. So we do stuff with them as well. And really our preference is to kind of like get in front of people and meet people in person. That's why we do this stuff, because it really does help you stand out. Anyone can just go on a website, click a button, submit an application, and that's fine. That's also a good way to do it. But around that online application piece, my recommendation is always just get yourself out there, go to these events and meet people in person, because that application will really stand out. We'll know who you are. If you have LinkedIn and stuff like that as well, that also really helps. So kind of there's a lot to go around that online application piece, but those are some other ways to kind of stand out. So that's really where it starts with us is, making that connection, meeting people, and then, other than that, looking at the online application. First interview is usually just with myself or with another recruiter. That's just more of an introductory call. And then there is a second interview, but then there also could be a third. So these are more like technical interviews. I can kind of walk through, that'll probably be the next slide, but I'll walk through a little bit what that looks like. And then usually from there, the decision's made and offer and all that stuff. So pretty standard stuff, but I'll dive a little bit deeper into the next one here. So yeah, so really what to expect like in that first initial interview with the recruiter. So keep in mind, like, this is really the recruiter working on the role. So it'd be like myself who would be in that first call. So we're kind of that middleman between, management and obviously the teams, that you'd be joining. So we have kind of like a basic understanding of the role. We obviously speak with the hiring manager. We have the job description. What really the goal of that first interview and the recruiter is to really gather as much information as possible from yourself. So we want to understand your technical background. We want to understand, just kind of your current situation. So, what are you looking for? What year you're in? When you're graduating, availability to start, where you're located, because a lot of times we are in office here in Ottawa. So we really just want to find out all that stuff, like your status and everything. And like I said, we really want to walk through the initial, we don't like to get too deep technically. We just want to get a good overview of your experience, technical background, and just make sure it matches up with kind of what we're looking for. And so that's, the first one. Second one, that would be directly with the hiring manager. So that's definitely going to be more technical. So it's usually a one-on-one video call with them. They'll be able to describe a little bit deeper, what your day-to-day responsibilities are, what the team dynamic is like. And that's a really good chance for you to ask more in-depth technical questions, and stuff relating to the job and kind of day-to-day and everything. So definitely a good opportunity to do that. And then sometimes we do only have 2 interviews. It depends on the complexity of the role or the team, but sometimes it will go to a third kind of panel interview. And this will be with maybe some of the peers that you could possibly be working with. So it could be working with, just kind of more junior members of the team. And that it could be a mix of kind of behavioral and technical questions. So they'll want to get a good kind of idea of, if you're a culture fit with the team, and if you'll be, a good team player, and if you'll kind of get along with everyone and just be a good fit essentially for the team. Awesome. So just a couple questions I want to throw out there. How long do you think a recruiter will look at your resume? Anyone could just shout it out. Yeah.
15 to 30 seconds.
Okay. Anyone else? You can just shout it out. It's all good. Yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. Anyone else want to guess? 30 seconds. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. 10 seconds. Okay. Yeah. And how many applications do you think we get on one single job posting? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I might have given it away, but yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
600.
Yeah. Yeah. That's common as well. Yeah. Yeah. That's very common too. So yeah. And yeah, how long interviews last? I mean, those vary, but yeah, I'm not gonna throw that out there, but yeah, those can vary as well. And then will there be a coding assessment? So we'll go to the next slide and we'll kind of see some of the answers. So whoever said 6 seconds, you were spot on. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of the average. Depends on how many pages you have, depends on the complexity of the role, if it's more senior or whatever, but that's really it. So whenever I'm talking to students at like job fairs and everything, and they're showing me their resume, they're asking for tips, it's super important that the most important of your information needs to be right up top. Like your technical skills right off the bat, your education right off the bat, and then like, relatable project or co-op work at like pretty much within a first glance. So that is very important. Because we have so many applications, 200, 500 applications, if we were to go through every single, we do go through most resumes, but if we were to go and look and like spend a minute on each resume, for example, read every single line, we wouldn't have time to do anything else. So it's just, yeah, it's a constant flow. It's like we have to be really strategic with what we're looking at on the resume. So that's very important to keep that in mind, that recruiters can really only process so many resumes and look at so many resumes at one time. So yeah. And then yeah, so with the time of the interview, so usually with the initial interview, it's about 30 minutes, like a phone conversation. And then any other interviews after that could range from 1 to 2 hours, we kind of say. Typically they're like an hour technical interview, but then if it's a more a technical advanced kind of interview, could be 1.5 hours or 2, depending on if there's like a coding assessment or anything involved as well. So coding assessment, we do this sometimes. So we'd actually sometimes we do send out like a quiz, it's through HackerRank. So it's basically like an online kind of coding assessment. We'll give you some scenarios to complete. So just be prepared, you might be sent that. But sometimes they actually do like a coding assessment or kind of a live kind of case scenario in person. They'll have you share your screen, and then sometimes you'll do some like exercises that they'll give you. So be prepared for that as well. So just always come to the interview kind of prepared to do one of these things. So yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Small technical pickup. Do you mind if we
Sure.
take like 2 minutes to
Oh, yeah, totally cool. Totally cool. And you guys have any questions on anything? Yeah. While we wait. Yeah, sure. A little tips on kind of what to do kind of leading into your interview. So yeah, I mean, really be yourself is really kind of one of the most important aspects, I should say. Obviously you're nervous and you want to, present yourself well, but it's really great to always show your personality, maybe talk about your interests and hobbies and everything. Yeah, we want to basically hire someone who's genuine and is going to come onto the team, just basically be who they really are. Because if you're someone else in the interview and then you come on and then maybe you're a little bit like maybe not fitting as well with the team, it could have something to do with personality issues. So we just want everyone to be themselves and just be genuine. That's always an important aspect. Research your own company is always very, very important as well. I will be completely honest, guys. I've been in countless interviews where I've gone on the phone with someone and, I say, one of the first questions I always ask is, oh, tell me what you know about the company. Tell me what you know about the role. One of the first red flags I'll have is someone who says, oh, I don't know. Like, can you tell me about the company? I don't like, that's usually the first red flag because it shows that you're just not really interested. Obviously didn't really take the time to research us or anything like that. It just kind of shows a lack of interest. So it's always good to get on a call and say, yeah, no, I checked out the website. Some of your products look really cool, and this really interests me. So it's super important to always go in and know at least what the company is and some of the things that they do. That shows a lot of initiative, shows a lot of interest, which is super important. Yeah, so be prepared to tell us a story. Like I was saying before, it's really about talking about your past, talking about some of your co-op experience, your education stuff. Really just kind of telling us more about yourself and your interests and everything. Always important. Yeah, and then really kind of asking yourself, why Ciena? So it kind of goes into the research aspect. So we want people to want to work at Ciena. It's more than just a job. It's definitely like the rest of your life. It's your career. It's where you want to go with your career path and everything. So it's always important to look into the company you're applying to and making sure that it's right for you, and not just a job. So very important. And then yeah, familiarize yourself with the Ciena products and services. So like I said before, just doing your research and then building rapport. Yeah, so I mean, all the interviews, they don't always have to be very transactional. You can always have a good conversation and just be personable, ask, how's the weather, do you like sports, stuff like that. So all good things kind of build rapport and just kind of create that, friendliness kind of, environment. It's always good to kind of, it does kill some of the nerves as well. If you go into an interview if you come in hot and just kind of get right into it, it can maybe get your nerves up. If you kind of build a little bit of a rapport first, you know, ask them how their day is, ask how things are going. That's it's usually kind of breaks a little bit of the tension as well. So, okay, excellent. So this is a very important thing that we look for that in interviews, and this is a really great way to structure your answers. So anyone, you know, who hasn't done a lot of interviews and everything, this is probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to you for how to structure your answers and how to structure, you know, your experience and the stories that you're going to tell. Yeah, feel free to take pictures, like, or take notes about this, because this is very important. Pretty much when you're speaking to a recruiter or a manager, this is basically how they want your questions to be structured. So, you know, I can kind of walk through a little bit here, but it's really, yeah, the STAR approach. So the situation. So you're describing the context, background of the situation, so the interviewer can understand really the scenario. So they can understand the scope, you know, what you're in. I kind of gave a little bit of example. It's maybe not as relatable, could be different based on what you're doing, but you'll see here. So during my final year at university, I was part of a team responsible for organizing the annual student conference. We had 500 attendees. So they're basically giving the scenario, they're giving the scope of what it was, what they were doing. This could be a project that you're working on. This could be a co-op that you've done. This is basically what, you know, what the situation was, where I was. Okay, very important. The task. So you're basically explaining what your role was, what you did, and basically, yeah, what you were assigned with. So that's another thing it could relate to. You know, if it was a project that you're working on, that could be, you know, just what part you were playing in that project. Then the action. So pretty much, you know, what you did, how you kind of executed it. And basically, you know, how you kind of address all the tasks and resolve any challenges or anything as well. So very, very important as well to kind of give like a detailed timeline of everything. And yeah, so that's very important. And then the result, really, like we want to hear, you know, if it was a co-op or something like that, and you work on a project, like was it deployed? Like, you know, was it successful? You know, was your project successful? So we want to hear kind of the end result. So keeping these four things in mind when you're structuring your answer is very important, because it'll kind of help you. It'll help you structure your answers. It'll also help you formulate better answers, because the last thing you want is to be rambling, because obviously time is precious, and you're on a time limit, right, in every interview. So you want to make sure that everything's very calculated and everything's very organized. So, you know, this is something you can use to kind of practice some of your answers. So if you have co-op experience or project work experience, you can basically structure your answers and prepare your answers based on this this guide here. So very important aspect. Awesome. Yeah, and so that was really kind of the bulk of it. But yeah, really some final tips and tricks that I want to go through. Yeah, so prepare some questions. So this is very important as well. So I'm not going to say that you're going to fail the interview, you know, if you don't ask questions. That's totally fine. I mean, sometimes if the recruiter and the interviewer explains everything and everything was pretty clear to you, that's totally fine. You know, no pressure. But it's always good, you know, it's always good to either ask about like culture, you know, what the team dynamic is like. You can ask about, you know, being in office, or, you know, really anything related to that. It doesn't have to be technical, but it could just be a little bit more about the company or about the team. Just, you really want to know what you're getting into, right? That kind of relates back to what I said about, you know, why Ciena. So it's really, you know, obviously we want to make sure that you want to work there and that it's right for you. So, you know, that's a good opportunity for you to ask about culture and everything as well. So definitely an important aspect. Dress and speak professionally. So yeah, another, you know, another funny one. I actually can't count how many times I've had someone come on like Zoom or something with like a messy room in their background and like dressed in like a hoodie or something like that. Like we're pretty casual at Ciena. Like we don't really have like a dress code. Like you can wear a hoodie or whatever and stuff like that. So it's pretty casual, but you know, this is usually the first impression that you're having with a company. So you kind of have to be somewhat polished, you know, like personally, I'm not going to judge you like so much, but I mean, as a general recommendation, it's always good to have like, you know, a nice background, either like a virtual background is fine. And just, you know, dress for the job you want, right? That's like a common saying. So, you know, dress professionally, and just, you know, make sure you're kind of leaving a good first impression. So that's always important. Yeah. So avoid rambling. That goes back to my previous slide about the STAR approach. So, you know, time is precious. You know, you are on a time limit. You know, we're you know, sometimes we're doing multiple interviews a day. You know, we're doing multiple interviews, you know, all week and stuff like that. So we do have, you know, pretty tight like timelines that we're working with. So it's just it's a good thing for the recruiter that you're speaking to stay on a structured, timeline, and yeah, and really just kind of focus your answers. It's always a fine line because obviously, if you're rambling or speaking too much, it can take up too much time. But then if you're speaking too little, obviously we're not getting the information that we need, because we do need to take notes. We do need to give these to the hiring manager. So you do want to find that like perfect balance in between, right? So never give like a 1-sentence answer, but then also don't give like a 2-paragraph answer. So you can kind of, prepare your answers a little bit, and you can kind of touch things up. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind, that there's always a kind of a happy middle ground that you can go with. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, be friendly, be personable. Like I said before, guys. So, what's really interesting is that, since we do have so many applications, we have a lot of interest in Ciena. It is very competitive. The other thing too is that a lot of people have very similar technical backgrounds. It happens a lot too. We'll look at a resume and it'll look very similar, coming from like similar co-ops or similar education. What's one way to stand out is just really show your personality and show that you're you'll be a good person to work with, and that you'll fit in well with the team and everything. So really, personality is really important. A lot of managers, when they're hiring for their team, sometimes they don't even need a lot of technical experience. It's because everything, we train a lot. Like, we obviously have a great mentorship program. We have a great, place just to kind of, learn and grow. So, we find people who succeed at Ciena are really the ones who are motivated, show a lot of initiative, and just love to learn. We have so much resources and so much like senior people like Bruno that you can learn from. So, it's just really having an open mind and just showing that personality and showing that you're kind of a go-getter is really important. It's, for me, something I've always said in my career, I'd rather hire someone with less experience, who has a really great personality, or someone who is like, super technical, super smart, and doesn't have a personality at all, or has like a possibly, a toxic personality. So you'd always lean the other way, because that person's trainable, they have a good personality, they're a little bit easier to kind of grow within the company. So definitely important aspect. Yeah. So like I said before, always come prepared. Yeah, just do your research. Always an important aspect. Yeah. So I said that a couple times, but always love to emphasize that. And yeah, question. Yeah.
So when you say speak professional, you say casual, it's like cool is
yeah,
because like it breaks the ice more, or just like fully professional.
What's that? Sorry.
Like a word like
cool. Speak professionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. That's totally fine. Yeah. Like, I mean, don't like swear or anything like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, for sure. Like that's totally fine. Like even me, like sometimes I get pretty casual in interviews, and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Like, how's your day? Stuff like that. That's totally fine. I think it's kind of gauge like who you're speaking to a little bit. I think you do have to kind of cater a little bit depending on how maybe professional the other person is, or what their tone is. So you can kind of cater a little bit to that. But yeah, I mean, it's always good to have like just even the way your voice sounds, like you can be professional, but also sound like a little bit more, lighter, and not as robotic or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no swearing in interviews. Yeah, that's one thing I've also come across. And I mean, yeah, it's just again, you always want to be professional, right? So, yeah, and be honest and be authentic. We really want to see your true self. We don't want to get any surprises when you're coming in. We could interview someone, and then the person coming in could be a completely different personality and maybe not work out or something. So that's always very important. Just be yourself, be authentic. Really show your true colors is always really important as well. So yeah, another huge thing we always love to emphasize. Me personally, and a lot of managers do say this a lot, but just be very honest with your experience and your skills. As Bruno said, like, a lot of people can say, oh yeah, I know C, like, yeah, I it's super easy, all that stuff. Then they come in day one and then they really struggle. So it's not good for us. It's not good for you as well, because it can really hold you behind. And it's kind of just a poor reflection. You want to be honest. So we actually love when candidates say to us, like, you know what? I've heard of it. I haven't done much of it, or I've taken some course on it, but I haven't actually done it practically. That's great. Like, just be super honest with your skills and your capabilities. That's very, very important. I can't emphasize that enough. Because we want to hear that you're open to learning. That's really, really a key piece. Like, you're interested in it. Like, maybe you do some personal projects or stuff with it, but to show that like you're really motivated to learn it, like that goes a long way as well. So definitely don't, and the other thing I see people do is like, you know, they'll see a job description, you know, and they'll see like the technical skills and they'll like add that on their resume. Yeah, that's usually not a good sign because like it'll probably come up in the interview process. And if you lie on a resume or anything like that, like it'll come to light eventually. So yeah, definitely don't like put keywords and stuff that you think recruiters would look for. That's always something. The other thing I've seen as well is like people, because we do like keyword search from resume, is like they'll put like, like embedded or something in like white font so you can't see it or something, but it'll show up on like the resume search. So that's something we've seen a lot. So definitely don't do that as well. That's a big one.
How do you pick up on it?
Yeah. So, well, because if we do like a word search, like in the resume, like it'll come up.
Oh, right.
Like you'll see it in the
Oh, I
word
see.
search, but then it'll be
Yeah.
like a white font hidden within like the white page of the resume.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's interesting. We've seen that come up and like, yeah. So you'll see the skill, it'll come through like our keyword search, but then like it's not actually on the resume, but it's just hidden in there just so that the resume gets viewed. But it's not a good approach. Yeah. Excuse me. And yeah, showing enthusiasm for the role and company. I think that's like a really key piece, like to really showing that that you really care and that you're interested. That really goes a long way because like we want people who want to work at Ciena, right? Like, we want people who come in day one and are like really enthusiastic, really want to collaborate with the team, and are just really excited. It's a really, really key piece. It's obviously it's a job and it's a paycheck at the end of the day, but we really want people who are passionate about our products and our team and everything. So definitely show that excitement enthusiasm is very important. So so another kind of piece that kind of ties into the professional is making sure your environment is appropriate for the interview. I've had some situations where like I've had someone who was like doing the interview from like their car or something like that, and like you hear like traffic in the background, or like they'll be doing it in, like the cafeteria at school or something like that, and you hear all the talking and stuff. So excuse me, that's like a really important piece. Just make sure you're in like a quiet, appropriate setting. Because when you start to get those interruptions or, I can't hear you over the phone or something like that, obviously disrupts the interview. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're in an appropriate place for the interview. And if your camera's on, even more appropriate, right? Because you want to make sure your background is professional and everything. So definitely a key piece. And then I always get a lot of questions about that. Like, should I send a thank you, or should I follow up after? Definitely feel free to. It's not the end of the world if you don't. Like, we're not gonna say like, oh my God, they didn't send me a thank you letter, so rejected. Like that's not gonna happen. Like, it obviously shows you're interested. You can definitely send a thank you note. And obviously times do get busy. There's sometimes where the roles will, go on for a little bit of time, and like, maybe you won't hear back from us for a week. Usually the recruiter will try and update you, but if you're just curious about your status or anything like that, or just where the next steps are, you can always feel free to send us an email and just say like, hey, what's up? How's it going? Thanks for the interview and just want to know next steps. So definitely feel free to do that as well. That's totally cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think that's most of it, Brian. That's my last one, eh? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah, so that's pretty much like all thank you. Yeah. So I hope that sheds a lot of light on like, this is kind of coming, from like my perspective on, people I've interviewed over the years and like kind of things that I look for. So I really hope this helps you guys. Cause this will really help you kind of in that, when you're getting into those interviews. So these are some things that, recruiters will definitely look for. So we're going to do like a little bit I want to see, does anyone have any questions first or on any of that, or yeah, sure. Yeah, so good question. Yeah, so it really can vary. So like, because we have, again, because it's like a competitive process, because we have like a lot of interest, we can have interviews, like the process go on for maybe like 2 weeks sometimes, because we'll have to go through the 3 stages. Like I'll have to interview them, then I'll obviously go to the technical and the third. So it depends on everyone's availability, but I would say like it could range anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks, and that's just dependent on like your availability, the manager's availability, when they can book in times, how many candidates we're interviewing. So it really could vary. I've had some go on for like a month, because it just sometimes is just really busy and you can't get a hold of a manager because, they're doing their own thing. And then they have to, because it is tough for a manager, because you gotta remember, they're doing their job. Like they're managing a team, they're doing all the technical stuff. And then they have to jump in and do a whole other job by recruiting, so it's a lot. So it can take time for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Another question. Yeah.
How common is that stuff where somebody's interviewing from their car? Like
It happens more than you think.
Okay.
Honestly, like,
It's easy to stand out just by.
yeah. Yeah, like it honestly happens more than you think. Like it happened to me like I think like 2 months ago, where like someone was in their car and they were and it was so funny because like I called, we had a scheduled interview, right? We always send out like a calendar invite and a reminder and all that stuff. And then I call and there's like, oh, hello. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is Tony from Ciena. And like you hear them like kind of scrambling. They're like, oh, okay, just let me park just 1 second. I'm like, whew, okay. Like, you know, so it seriously happens more than you think. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I know Ciena's positions have them as an optional attachment, but for our co-op where we're mandatory to attach one is cover letters. What are your stances on that?
Yeah.
You guys must get like hundreds of applications and like just like skip through people's resumes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like cover letters for co-op applications?
Personally, I don't need them.
Yeah.
I don't need them. Yeah, honestly, like it's like a nice gesture. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is like, you know, it's funny. This is like a really debated topic in like the recruitment community. You'll talk to other recruiters who are like, you need to have a cover letter. Like it's, you know, I don't care. Like personally, I don't care, but don't hold me to that because I mean, every recruiter is different and every company is different. Some companies do require for you to submit a cover letter. Like they'll have it in the application. You know, you have the 2 documents, whatever you need to attach. Personally, we don't have time. Like it's a nice gesture, it's cool and everything like that, but like we can't read every cover letter. Like it's just that's the reality. You know what I mean? If it's like a smaller company, you know, maybe they have like less applications and stuff, maybe. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a mixed answer. It really is a mixed answer. But if you're applying at Ciena, you don't need a cover letter. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing. But other companies, maybe. So could vary. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much all of Ciena. I'll be honest. Yeah, I've talked about this with the other recruiters like on my team who do the experience hiring and the early in career hiring, and like we collectively say that like no one really is reading like a cover letter. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like something that is like optional under like any additional attachments that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you have one, like sure, like if you already have one ready to go, like, but I wouldn't say like I would spend extra time to do it. You know, like I wouldn't go out of my way to do it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I would say collectively it's kind of like it's not a requirement to have a cover letter. Yeah. I hope that answers that. I know it's kind of vague and yeah, again, every company is different, but personally, like on our team, we don't. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do a fun little exercise. Actually, Ryan has graciously wanted to volunteer for this, so appreciate that. So we're gonna do a little like live role play kind of. I'm gonna interview Ryan basically, and he picked up all these tips, so he should be really good at it. And he's also done like 7 co-ops, so he knows what he's doing. Do you want to sit down? Do you want to make it like formal? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Get some chairs here. So we'll kind of keep it short and sweet. So I won't go too hard on you. So we can just talk about like one of your most recent like co-op experiences. But great, perfect. So I'm just gonna pretend like I'm calling you. Okay. Ring, 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 ring. Hey Ryan, it's Tony from Ciena. How are you today? Very good, very good. Thanks so much for connecting with me.
So, for whether, assuming it's just.
He's already rejected. Yeah. I'm joking. Yeah. It's okay. I'll run it. So yeah. So yeah. Hey, it's Tony from Ciena. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today. So I just wanted to connect with you. Saw that you applied to our position. I'd love to kind of take a bit of a deeper dive into your background and experience and tell you a little bit more about the company and everything. And then we can dive a little bit more into your experience. Okay. So first off, Ryan, tell me a little bit what you know about Ciena.
So I've heard of you guys as like one of the networking companies in the optical space.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have a lot of data center hardware and that sort of thing, and you guys are a leader in the space of high-speed communication.
Yeah, amazing, very good. Yeah, so at that point, I would kind of jump into like, I would probably, do a little bit more and say a little bit more about Ciena and tell them about the office and all that stuff. I won't do that, but that was very good start. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself. So tell me about your education and maybe take a little bit deeper dive into your recent co-op position.
So currently I'm a 4th year undergraduate at Carleton. I'm studying computer science.
Nice.
My most recent experience at a startup that works on high-speed trading engines.
Mhm.
So if you think about like a stock market, how you would trade assets at a very high speed pace, and as a developer, how you would write algorithms for this.
Amazing.
So I worked on the infrastructure to help enable developers to build these high trading systems.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, so maybe walk me through then like a typical, day in your life then. So like how are, tasks delegated to you, and tell me a little bit about maybe like the software development life cycle and kind of, throughout the stages there. Yeah.
So my position is a little bit unique compared to a typical internship. So I'm considered a lot more like a consultant than like an internal engineering team, like intern. And so part of my day to day is basically collecting requirements from our customer because this has been contracted to us. And then we would build out the feature requests that they would have on any particular week. And so, for example, they would come in and say, hey, we have this estimate for this feature for roughly 5 days of development work. And I would discuss back and forth what the requirements are, what they expect to get out of it, and what the timeline is for actual deployment. Because implementation and deployment are a little bit different because there's a verification cycle in the middle.
Yeah.
And so that would be the cycle. So every week or 2 weeks, we would have a new feature, a new request to be maintained or implemented, and then
Amazing. That's great. And tell me a little bit about technologies you were using, some of the programming languages or.
So primarily right now I'm working with Python and TypeScript.
Nice.
So we have those two main languages. It really depends per client. So I've worked between clients, but right now it's mostly Python.
Amazing, amazing. So coming into it as a co-op student, like what were some of the biggest like learning curves or challenges that you came in to the role?
Yeah, so I was typically more, I'm more familiar with more of the internal engineering team type of workflows where you typically have tickets assigned to you and that sort of thing. You work as a team. One of the biggest learning curves is working alone, primarily. So you have the customer and you have your manager to help guide you and make sure that you're on track. But it was a lot more individual work and a lot more of reaching out to people for help rather than receiving it.
Okay. Awesome. And yeah, so on the team aspect as well. So tell me a little bit about some of the collaboration you were doing. You can also speak to like, if you did school projects or anything as well, because you said you did work like individually there, but were you kind of like part of a larger team? Were you kind of collaborating frequently or?
So for that one, it was primarily each person had their own project and you had like a project lead that oversaw multiple projects. But I've also worked at companies where you have a more traditional team of there's a couple of developers, a couple of business people to manage the project, and 5 or 6 developers, some ranging in seniority to help guide the people that are less senior and still learning and growing.
Nice. So do you prefer like more teamwork or working like independently or?
I personally prefer a lot more of the teamwork aspect of things.
Nice.
You get to really learn from people. There's a tighter feedback loop compared to working alone.
Yeah.
So especially as somebody earlier in career, right? You really want to absorb knowledge from the people that have more knowledge and more experience in you.
Yeah, 100%. Great. And what do you think are some like characteristics that make a successful team?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say about diversity of like intellectual backgrounds. So I definitely appreciate working with different designers and different business people that tend to not be as technical, but they have different insights. So for example, if you're working on front end, you really want to have the designer influence. Or if you're working on a product to deployment team, you really want the business aspect of things because now you need to know how things are getting rolled out and who the customers actually are so you can do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, teamwork is obviously super important at Ciena. So, it's something we always like to ask to make sure that you're, obviously able to work with, all levels and, able to kind of work, collaboratively within the team. So that's really great. A question I always like to ask is, if you were to come onto Ciena, what do your first few weeks or first month look like? Obviously starting as like a new grad can be a bit daunting. There's a lot of things to learn and, a lot of people to learn from. So like, what's your kind of integration strategy when joining a new full-time position?
Yeah, so typically like the first 2 weeks is definitely more about like getting to know everyone on the team, booking calls with everyone to make sure that you know everyone in your team and like even like your director, your managers above. It's really useful to know who's above you in the organization, so you get to learn what the next path is as you climb into the company, as you stay there for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, looking at the technology, all the documentation. Typically, when you're onboarded, it's to a project. You're working in a team that has a project, and so learning more about that project, learning more about like what makes up the team, who like what's the distribution of developers to business to design, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
so that you know who you can ask if you have any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really great. Yeah. No, yeah. And like, even in regards to like, documentation and stuff too, we have a ton of that, you can access, and a lot of, more senior people like Bruno that you can, have mentor you and everything. So a lot of ways to learn. So that's really great. Kind of, yeah, that proactive approach is awesome. That's really great. I'll cut it short though. And usually this is where we get into the point of like, so when are you available, right? Like, what's your availability looking like? And like, are you located in Ottawa? Are you able to come into the office stuff? And then this is also where we get into like salary expectations and stuff like that. But, we don't need to go over that. But yeah, those are some real questions that I do ask during an interview. I can obviously go a little bit longer, but you did an amazing job. When can you start?
I can start anytime.
You're hired. All right. Thanks, Ryan. That was awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So that was very good. I'll give it to Ryan. That was very good. I would probably pass him on to the next stage of the interviews. Yeah, that was very good. So obviously that was like a very condensed version of, but those were some real questions that I would ask someone in an interview. Like, I do like to see, yeah, just kind of the projects you're working on, like kind of going back to the STAR approach, some of the things that you were involved in. We do ask a lot about, team aspect and how well you'll collaborate with everybody. And yeah, just kind of your integration. That's a really key piece. How do you kind of go about learning in a new position? Are you going to come in and just kind of be shy and say like, I don't know what to do? Like, it's really kind of showing the initiative is like super important. So those are some questions you asked. So yeah, any observations from that you guys wanted to ask about, or any questions? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sure.
Make my resume stand out against someone like Brian?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, and it is tough. Like, I'll be honest, because I mean, having previous co-op experience is definitely nice. We having some of that previous knowledge is always good. But if you do have any school projects or personal projects, always good to highlight that. Really show kind of where you've used those technical skills. I think that's really key piece. And then yeah, making yourself stand out. Coming to these events and stuff is always good as well. And just, yeah, kind of showing the initiative. If you have like a GitHub, of course, that's always nice as well. But really kind of build your portfolio, kind of your online presence is really key as well. So yeah. But yeah, no, with the interview as well, Ryan, like very good at, detailing some of your experience. I know, again, it was a very condensed version, but, we do want to hear kind of like what a day-to-day looks like, what technologies you're using. So yeah, that was definitely a good way to structure that. But yeah, so other than that, that was kind of really the end of our session, but do you guys have any more questions? We're going to stick around. Oh, yeah.
How different would a first-time co-op interview
Yeah.
look? Like, how different would it be than
Yeah.
a full-time position? I felt like that interview was for a full-time position.
Yeah, well, they're similar, like similar-ish, right? Like, so, because we are obviously interviewing. Well, okay, so the thing is actually, sorry, I forgot to make it clear. So if you are hiring for a co-op position, you actually go straight to the hiring manager. So we actually don't interview you for a co-op position. Sometimes we do, but usually the hiring manager actually reaches out directly. So what you just saw there will kind of be mixed in with also a technical interview. But if we're looking for new grad, like full-time positions, that's usually what will happen first, and then you'll go into the technical interview. But co-op does work a little bit different, so it'll be more of a condensed process. So it'll be like some of those questions, like behavioral questions, but then also mixed in with like more technical questions. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah.
Just to add on to talk about.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Projects, is it like a good idea to relate it to other jobs and technical?
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, like I've seen that before. If like I've worked at like Lone Star or something like that, or some other. Yeah, like that's fine. It shows that you've like actually been working, and you're actually picking up, because it's definitely a good experience. You're still gaining experience, so you can definitely put that on there. Yeah, obviously it's not as relatable to like what we're doing, but it still shows that you're out there working, right? So for sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just have a question about after you're done most of the interview.
Yeah.
You're gonna discuss like the salary expectations.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So are they gonna ask you like how much, for example, are you expecting? Are you supposed to reply with like a number? Like what's the most appropriate discussion?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think actually like legally now, I think most companies have to put their salary range. I think it was like a new Ontario thing, eh? Yeah. Okay. So we do put our salary ranges on our job postings, like if it's co-op or if it's a new grad position. So we already give you an idea of like what the salary range is. Obviously, like we come into the meeting already kind of knowing, you know, like what our budget is and like what the salary range is. So yeah, you can definitely give like, and it's always good for you guys to actually do your research, right, on the market. Like that's something I always recommend. Like take a look at other companies and you know the standard salaries for your position and what level you are and stuff like that. So it is good for you to go in knowing that, and you can kind of base it on industry, you know, trends and industry knowledge. So you can kind of give us like a kind of a wide range or kind of what you'd be, you know, looking for based on what city you're in, what your experience is, stuff like that. So you can definitely come in prepared with some of that information, but we usually come back with like a more realistic range. So like if someone's like, you know, if like a new grad's coming in saying like, oh, I want like 120K, we'll straight up say no, you know, like that's just kind of like, we'll be honest and say like, well, no, that's higher than what we can pay. Like, you know, we do offer very competitive salaries, but like for a new grad coming in, you're not gonna be making like 130K. Like it's maybe at a startup, I don't know, but yeah. You had a question there, yeah?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you provide a little bit more information on the mentorship programs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do have a great mentorship program. You know, new grads coming on board, like, you know, they kind of be paired with managers with like Bruno, and yeah, it's just so we kind of like a buddy system too, where you can kind of pair up with another person who's like experienced, and it's just kind of like a go-to person to kind of, you know, if you have questions, if you're just, you know, not clear on some things, you can kind of go to that person as like a point of contact to you know, basically, yeah, answer any questions that you might have. And then you can kind of go seek out more senior managers, and you can kind of, you know, show interest in something. They can kind of bring up to speed on that. But I think, Bruno, have you done any mentorship so far?
So,
yeah,
no, there's a
Yeah.
formal program like you described.
Yeah.
What we do is typically pair up a new grad with someone who's fairly new in the team, only because they just went through all those same. Oh, I need an account with. There's all kind. You need like 1 million accounts internally. Like, oh,
Yeah.
how do you even build a loan? I've got scripts to do that. So there's a formal program that the company organizes. You can actually just go, hey, I'm looking for a mentor, and it could be someone on the other side of the world,
Yeah.
right? But inside the team, typically you'll be paired up with someone who, at least in my experience, who's
Yeah.
fairly junior as well, but just went through what you're about to go through, so it's fresh in your mind. And to set expectations for those of you who've never done co-ops or internships, it's funny anecdote. I did an internship, and I'm from New Brunswick, and I remember I bought suits when I came to Ottawa. As I thought everyone wore suits, and I walked in, and I was the only guy wearing a suit.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to code that day.
Yeah.
And it was 8 months later before. Now, Nortel was a slow machine compared to Ciena, but what my point here is, there's actually a really long ramp, right? Like, it'll take a while before you're truly an independent contributor, because there's so much subject matter knowledge that you can't, you know, it's all proprietary, it's not in textbooks. So don't, you know, set yourself up that I'm here to learn, right? Like you're not there day one, we're gonna like, listen, you got to fix this bug because we're screwed if you don't fix it, right? That's not how it works. It is a long ramp. And as long as you keep showing up, pushing hard, asking questions. Some people are so shy, look, I'm gonna look stupid. No, I'm more worried when people aren't asking questions.
Yeah.
Because you're either super genius, and there aren't many of those, or you're sitting in your corner trying to figure out because you're too scared to ask. That scares me. But anyway,
100%. No, totally agree. That all really great points. I think like the key piece from that is never like suffer in silence. You know, like that's the worst thing you can do. Like if you're scared of something, like if you're at your desk and you're like, oh my God, like I don't know how to do this, but I'm also embarrassed to like ask someone. That's the worst thing you can do. Like be open and honest about your challenges and your struggles, because like that's the only way you learn.
Like
right?
no one
like,
gets fired for asking a dumb question.
No,
right?
no,
like,
no.
Ask.
I mean, if you say on your resume that you know C, and then you come into your first day and say, how do I do C? Then
exactly.
That's okay. That's a bad
it's
question.
Like misrepresenting yourself.
Yeah, that's a bad question to ask. But you know, it's you know, basic things like we're always. I think that's one thing great I can say about Ciena is that like, you know, it's very supportive, like with our different programs and mentorship and everything we do, and even just like the fact that we do have so many other new grads, like you'll never feel alone. Like, you know, you'll never feel like, oh my God, I'm like the only young person here and everyone here is so experienced. Like usually when we hire people, it's like you're coming in with like 40 other new grads or like, you know, 60 other interns. So like you'll buddy up with people like immediately. You'll find friends immediately, and you know, but it's just kind of putting yourself out there. So really, really important aspect. Yeah.
And mentorship. Now I'm going to a soapbox here.
Yeah.
Is a lifelong thing, right?
Yeah,
you might
totally.
be you might be working many, many years, and you're like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. I want to grow in my role, or maybe I want to do something different. How do I get there? That's also where mentorship can come in. Like you're an expert at what you do, but you'd like to maybe try a different path or something. You can get paired up with a mentor that might help you steer your career somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to just talk a little bit about the interviewing, and I don't have anywhere near as much, nowhere near as much experience as you do.
No.
But
go ahead. Yeah.
But for me, one thing that would get me in an interview is the glimmer of passion. And I always ask a candidate, like, hey, can you and feel free to use the whiteboard, describe a technical problem or any problem really that you've encountered, and you found a way to solve that problem, and when you got to the end, every real engineer has that little ego part where you go, oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't care if it's a friggin' Minecraft blah 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 thing that you're doing. I've had people go, I build, you know, the pedals for guitar effects. I build pedals. I design them and build them myself. And look, and he drew me stuff. I understand nothing that he described. I asked questions, he could answer them, but then I tried this, and it created something magical. I'm like, I want that, right? So if you can find a way. And maybe this doesn't apply universally. I don't know about other interviewing managers, but for me, if I could see that, hey, I'm a real, I hate to say it, but like engineer, and I like solving problems. That does it for me. Like that's what I want to see. And maybe it's a coding thing you did as a kid. Like, I was messing around with this thing, and I built this, and I've got a media server at home, and I extended it over here, and the more you start using words I don't understand, the more I'll be like, wow, that's impressive, right? Like, I don't know, lying is maybe not good, but bring that. And what happens is some of the very best problem solvers are the absolute worst communicators. So some of you out there are the kind that I can almost see you right now who it's very difficult for you to bring that across, but that's your mission in the interview, is to break out and go, listen, I think I can solve your problems, and I don't know how you illustrate that, but
totally.
If you can, then I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it's a great point. No, it really is. Like, even funny, I'm thinking about a story where I interviewed someone, and they didn't have a ton of experience, but you know what they said? They're like, oh, I actually reprogrammed, like,
there you go, right there, you got me, right?
Yeah, like literally, like they were like, oh, my dad installed a new, thermostat or something, and I programmed it to, you know, like do this and that, and then I even like went above and beyond and did, you know, programmed something to turn on his TV or whatever like that. Like that was really cool. Like that was, he didn't have a ton of experience, but he's like tinkering and he's like doing all these things. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to show that passion and show, like, you know, the hobbies that you're doing. So super, super cool. So
like when you don't have co-op, these are things you can bring up, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
This is your hopefully your it's always a bad word, but anyway, something.
No, I totally agree. I think we're coming up on time there, eh? So we're okay. Okay. Yeah. Actually, well, I do need to drive to Queens. So 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 I'm going to Queens right after this. So
is this where you guys go boo?
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. You guys are great. I love Carleton. Yeah. But so what I'm going to do, guys, does everyone here have LinkedIn? Can everyone put their hand up if you have LinkedIn? Awesome. If you don't have LinkedIn, definitely get LinkedIn. The reason why is because, like, you know, we're doing this a lot. Like, we're meeting hundreds of people. Like, we're gonna go to Queens, meet like 2,000 people, and I'm not gonna remember everyone's face. So like, having a LinkedIn with your picture on it is super important, because like I usually connect with everyone on LinkedIn, and then I can kind of, you know who you are based on your picture and everything like that. And then you can also send me your resume. So I highly recommend that. So what I'm going to do actually for you guys, if everyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm going to put my QR code up here. And if you want to just come up and say hi, you can do that. And you can send me your resume. So we are actually hiring for summer co-op roles. Like right now, we'll be putting out some open positions in the next, couple weeks. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can send me over your resume. You can, and if you apply to any positions, I can definitely try and help you out. Best thing I can do is like push your resume forward, have it reviewed. Maybe you'll connect with me on a call. So yeah, I'm going to do that right now. And then that's pretty much it for the session. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone's time. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. You're off the hook.
Yeah.
You're good, buddy.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
well,
that was
thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah,
You did great.
thank
Yeah, that was amazing.